This isn't a PS Live or replay post narration, nor is it the kind of analysis video I normally do. Today I will talk about Black and White Ubers and why it is my favorite metagame of all time. In case you aren't aware of it, back in 2012 when I was a snot-nosed teenager, I would commonly upload Pokemon Online replays, Wi-Fi battles, and live content to YouTube, all based around this tier. Even when I started doing that, I had already been playing the game for several years, and I enjoyed it, sure, but it wasn't until I started playing Gen 5 Ubers that something about the game just clicked for me. Playing this tier awoke a desire to get better at the game, to build better, to play better, and inspired me to see the game through a different scope. This may sound like a very nostalgic reason, and it is, but I wouldn't make a video like this if there wasn't something to follow up with it. I'm here to show you why, nostalgia aside, I still love this 15-year-old metagame, and why you should give it a try. But before I do that, let me give you a small but necessary historical background. Back when it was the current generation, and even during the generation after, many people still consider it to be a very enjoyable metagame. But later down the line, Gen 5 started being considered an enjoyable meta by many players. While I am not sure why this was exactly the case, and I don't intend to accidentally generalize opinions, I could only guess it was due to how mindless it seemed in comparison to newer generations. You see, one of the main characteristics of the meta was that it was dominated by hyper offense. The other one was that hazards, and more specifically spikes, were seen as too easy to set up and way too hard to remove. For offensive teams, Pokemon like Deoxys's could get multiple layers of spikes with very little drawback from doing so. And for bulkier ones, Pokemon like Vetrom would be able to do that as well. As a matter of fact, it was not uncommon for both sides of the field to end up with a full set of hazards early in the game if two Ferrothorns were present within the match. Note that Defog didn't receive the effect it has now until Generation 6. Trying to remove hazards with a move such as Rapid Spin when two of the best Pokemon in the tier were Ghost types, as opposed to simply clicking Defog, probably didn't resonate with newer players. Because hazard-driven teams were everywhere, and I don't mean everywhere. The meta could be perceived as if it lacked depth and that it was chaotic or uninviting, which honestly, I understand. Nevertheless, older players would probably argue that the tier was perfectly balanced in its own way, even going as far as playing it in tournaments whenever they could. In recent times though, the metagame received a complete reshaping, which ultimately changed the dynamics of the tier and the overall perception of it by the player base. This was simply done by optimizing a single team archetype, Magic Sun. To briefly explain what this is, Magic Sun is an offense archetype focused on keeping Stealth Rock and other hazards off the field by using Pokemon with the Magic Bounce ability, such as Espeon and Satu. All of this in order for Ho-Oh to best make use of its offensive and defensive capabilities. This wasn't a new archetype by any means, but it was often labeled as inconsistent. It wasn't until recently that it was optimized by users Hack, Kebabe, and Shitrock Enjoyer. Without diving too much into it, with the optimization of this archetype the script got flipped on its head. Because this team excelled at keeping hazards off so well, quick and easy hazards from Pokemon like Deoxys and Ferrothorn were not a given anymore, which led to this team structure becoming a new staple in the meta, thus changing the landscape of the tier forever. So where does the metagame sit at right now? Is it at all balanced? Well, in my opinion, we have not had a more balanced version of this tier. Contrary to many of the recent Uber's metagames, most of the tier is considered viable. Even mons with small niches are very much usable on the right team. There's no clear winner here. Balance, offense, even stall, they are all perfectly viable. You can experiment and build upon many different compositions and come up with stark contrasting results depending on how you decide to tweak your team. Many Uber's generations suffer from a single Pokemon or a handful of them completely dominating the tier, but that is not the case here. There's no obvious top candidate when it comes to the best Pokemon in Black and White Ubers. And depending on who you ask, you will likely get a different answer on who is the most influential Pokemon in the tier. Not to say that there aren't top Pokemon, but the tier is so well balanced that the top Pokemon mostly have at least 2 or 3 viable counters to them, or consistent ways to check them, without resorting to egregious tactics to do so. The top Pokemon don't bully the tier, they complement and support overarching structures without becoming over-centralizing, and also there are no omnipotent sweepers that completely wipe everything out upon clicking a setup move. You could argue Pokemon like Groudon and Kyogre set the tone in the tier because of weather wars and all, but weather conditions mainly serve to enable certain team compositions. To give you some examples, Groudon complements stuff like Ho-Oh and Blaziken offenses, and Kyogre supports its own type of offenses with Kabutops, as well as some of the nastiest stall teams. But that's just part of it. Sand, and even Hail are also perfectly viable and even worth using in high level play. These latter two would be the closest thing to a team depending mostly on weather, as Pokemon like Sandrush, Excadrill do depend on sand to do their thing, and Hail abuses chip damage and cleaners like Blizzard Cure and White. At the same time though, Pokemon like Tyranitar and Hippowdon have some uses outside of setting up sand, and Abomasnow, funnily enough, is a true counter to Kyogre. Oh, and if you're scared of hazards, let me tell you that getting them off with rapid spin is more than possible. The Pokemon who are often used as spinners are more than viable and each have a unique set of tools. For example, Excadrill can offensively threaten Pokemon under Sand and set up Swords Dance, as well as get off Stealth Rock vs Magic Sun thanks to Mold Breaker. Tentacruel on the other hand got mad bobs this gen. It is one of the most annoying and unkillable Pokemon on the Rain thanks to Rain Dish, its Ring World ability. Let's also not forget about how much of a beautiful addition to the game Scald was. And Fortress can be just as annoying with Volt Switch, Pain Split, and Toxic, paired with the ability to set up spikes itself, and amazing defensive typing in the form of Bug Steel. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Removing hazards often takes solid positioning, but the feeling of successfully spinning away hazards in black and white couldn't be more satisfying, and it often leads to winning the game altogether. These are some of the reasons why many players come back and play it even years after it was already considered a relic of a tier. I've spoken a bit about viability and it being an important factor when it comes to the potential for replayability, but let's talk about a different factor that makes players still feel invested in this tier. That is the potential for creativity. Because the tier is not dominated by a specific playstyle or team archetype, it allows players to constantly look for and test different options that wouldn't work in an over-centralized metagame that is stifled by a small group of Pokemon. Many team compositions work differently depending on the direction you want to give the team. You might be able to see a Cobalion roaming around on offense as a Stealth Rock pivot with Volt Switch, or even a Gastrodon lurking somewhere on a stall team completely countering Kyogre and some Arceus forms. The possibilities are endless. One of the aspects I mentioned before, and something I find most interesting in the tier, is how the top Pokemon do set the pace for it, but it doesn't feel as suffocating as it does in other generations. Take a Pokemon like Arceus Ghost, for instance, which is in my opinion the best Pokemon in the tier. It can run Calm Mind sets, it can run Swords Dance, it can be a Stealth Rock setter, a utility wall, or simply act as an annoying wall breaker on the Rain with Judgment plus coverage options like Thunder and Focus Blast. Whatever moves that you decide to go with, Arceus Ghost will most definitely do something, and do it well. However, this doesn't mean it is unbeatable by design. There are many ways to stop this Pokemon: hazards, status, and revenge killing it under the right conditions. Not to mention true counters like Ho when no rocks are up, as well as Pokemon like Bulky Kyogre and a solid check in the form of Darkrai. The same is the case for the other top Pokemon. They can run a variety of sets that will glue a team together without breaking the game on their own. Every one of them needs support and the right execution. No, there are no deers that can get +2 in 3 different stats in one turn with 0 drawback, nor a lizard that misses Scale Shot, and the best of all, there's no fucking sticky web. But Baton Pass is allowed, so be careful around that. Having said all of that, it would be disingenuous to say that this tier will be enjoyable to everyone who tries it out. Not to sound elitist, but something to keep in mind is that because of the tier being so diverse and old, there's a lot to learn about it and you will likely need to spend some time getting to know some of the dynamics in it. This is probably not exclusive to this tier. As a matter of fact, I would argue there is a learning phase in pretty much every format, but I felt like I needed to mention it nonetheless. At the end of the day, fun is subjective. Some people may enjoy diversity, others run into the same thing all over again in every game. I'm nobody to judge in that regard, but at the very least, I encourage you to try it out. If you've stuck around until now, you may be wondering, where can I play this? Surely there isn't a showdown ladder for a 15-year-old lower tier, right? Right? Wrong! From April 1st all the way to April 30th, there will be a Gen 5 Ubers ladder in the Pokemon Showdown main server. It is also very likely that you will be seeing a Spotlight tournament in the ruins of Owl subforum on Smogon. This is the Helios Comet of Pokemon metagames. A chance like this only comes once every couple of years, so if you're interested in trying something new, or old rather, now is the time. And because I don't want you to feel like you need to build teams from scratch, I will be making a post on the forums and providing a link in this video's description with many teams for you to try out, from memes to actual teams, all for maximum enjoyment. There is also a Discord server specifically for Black and White Ubers that is outside the ladder and tournament where you can discuss the tier as well as ask for friendly games. I will leave the link for that in the description too. Needless to say, you will likely find content of me playing the tier in this channel throughout the month, whether it is a PS Live or tournament coverage. Don't be scared if you see a video like this pop up in your subs tab. Let me know if you end up checking the tier out. I'm excited to see what you guys think about my favorite tier. Before we leave, I would like to give a shout out to my boy Hack for helping me in reviewing the contents of this video. As always, many thanks for watching and see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.